Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Do you know too much that it's actually hurting your search for a better sound? So, quickly for those people who just discovered my channel, I deliver the highest quality of hi-fi content, so you can get certainty on maxing out your sound. And warning, this is not a Taylor Swift or PewDiePie channel where I shake my behind or tell you something so you can support a certain product that I sell, or like a total time waste, or so you not can deal with your own life. This is a channel for hardcore people that have the patience doing things the hardest way to get the most long-lasting enjoyment in life. So I don't use editing tricks. I don't socialize and follow trends and stuff like this and do what's popular and condense my material. This is the real thing, okay? This is the real channel that covers hi-fi. So I'm sorry, I'm not good at being politically correct and pleasing people and kind of bending my way to suit a certain type of audience so I can convince you with videos. So I'm sorry, if you're one of those type of people, just look at some random other hi-fi channel and buy some of their stuff. Because this is the real thing. This is how you get full enjoyment of watching not just this video, but all the other videos that I produce. So let me get into it. I've spoken to a lot of engineers and electricians and, higher ranking people in the audio industry. And I think a big part of their judgment has been impaired by simply just knowing too much. They're too good at their job. They're actually producing sound that's half bad. In a way, it's fantastically good, but it just doesn't have that long-lasting, deep spiritual connection. So you feel that this is something that I want to keep for the rest of my life. That's what I'm talking about. So I feel that you reach a certain point in life where you know how everything works on a theoretical level. It could be within the audio industry, it can be in some other industry. And that you just get so much success in the business world that it many times, not always, leaves you blind to what's actually happening. So simply because you're drawing too many parallels, making your own conclusions instead of leaving your engineering book on the table and choosing to listen in a completely new and fresh kind of way. So it's like the first time that you're ever listening to this, instead of having this data book that you're listening through, like, oh yeah, how does this connect? How do I connect the dots and this and this and this way, I feel that it's almost like a disease talking with engineers because they're so smart. They simply are stuck in their own head, and they've had success working with that way of thought, which has, given them on paper, money, success, elevated them. They've given them the status. They've been validated for this and that by the books and the authorities and the courses that, in the end, they've created a sound that's very linear, correct, boring, and managed in sound. And yeah, it might have a lot of incredibly good stuff going on in the sound, but that's how I feel that it's just general. It's like a general thing happening in the audio world. Of course, there's differences between the companies. I can't compare all the companies to each other and say that, like, this is the one thing that's happening, But I feel that a lot of engineers from a lot of different companies are thinking in this certain type of way. So let me just show you a clip demonstrating what I mean. Let's just go to the start here.
Oh, hätte ich meiner Tochter nur geglaubt. Oh, hätte ich meiner Tochter nur geglaubt.
If there's any sound.
Oh, hätte ich meiner...
Am I not getting any sound? Da, 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 da. Okay, technical difficulty. Let's do this again.
Oh, hätte ich meiner Tochter nur geglaubt. Oh, hätte ich meiner Tochter nur geglaubt. Oh, hätte ich meiner Tochter nur geglaubt. Oh, hätte ich ihr geglaubt. Oh, hätte ich ihr geglaubt. Ihr nur geglaubt, ihr nur geglaubt, ihr nur geglaubt, ihr nur geglaubt. Ich läge nicht in diesem Loch, wo Ratten mich und Mäuse noch. Ich läge nicht in diesem Loch, wo Ratten mich und Mäuse noch. Lebendiglich,
the criteria we use for measuring equipment are really so inadequate that it's very difficult to see how any really serious engineer would say, you know, I now know. And unfortunately, an awful lot of people in audio, engineers in audio, will measure their equipment and they won't listen to it because they are convinced, they've completely taken the Peter Walker argument that if it measures the same, it sounds the same. And if you can get it to measure better, then it'll sound better. And of course, we all know, well, most of us know that have listened to different equipment over a few years, know that you can take two pieces of equipment that measure virtually the same and they sound wildly different. So what does that tell you about the using measurements as a reference to sound? It's completely worthless.
I think the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree with Peter on that. It's a very good point that he had, which is just that, again, for me, it creates sound that is correct, boring, linear, and managed. So it just doesn't become convincing. And a great example of that is just listen to the Led Zeppelin drummer. I think it's called Bonham or something like that. Listen to how the way that he plays the drums, and then compare that to the stock drum sound that you listen to when you usually get a normal band using some kind of drum kit effect in a studio. Listen to how that in a way sounds less flawed, better timed, more correct, but somehow there's just not the same amount of soul and human-like interaction, so it just doesn't seem believable, you know. And I think that's the problem we have with all this measuring stuff that we're doing, is that it makes things too consistent, too predictable, too linear, too boring. It just sucks the life out of it, because everything's kind of held in a grip where it's not living its own life, doing its own thing. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. So there's also the argument that something can create a better sound that simply by being slightly flawed, so it conveys music in a more human way, just like I said before. And just for example, just think about the original Snell speaker and how it was tuned in by the use of Peter Snell's own ear instead of sound equipment, you know. That gave the sound some form of originality. And yes, it might even have seemed slightly different going from speaker to speaker, because he was listening to this thing instead of investing in huge amounts of expensive equipment and creating like a standard where it goes through this factory lineup and everything is just totally linear, you know. And I think that this is like one of the most important things that we get from good sound, having something become original without us trying to control it too much. Because if we try to calculate it by using advanced math and then we put some certain filters in it, we can get too close to trying to figure it out that it actually becomes too technical, too much of a surface-like flat detail, not enough life escaping this like controlled algorithm that you've created in your lab, you know. And I feel that's going on with a lot of gear. It's too controlled, it's too nice, it's too separated, everything's too much in their own box, and then it's got all these individual bad things happening in the structure, and then people are like, okay, let's put more stuff on the chain to fix those individual parts of the structure. And I'm just thinking, like, why are we doing this? You know, I am a bit controversial in the way that I just introduced in one of my previous videos. The way that you solve the streaming solution is by taking the streamer and basically adding, you know, isolating all of these different parts into chains so we don't get all of this jitter noise problems. That is a special thing in itself, which isn't a trend. So that is a bit, you know, me going against my own message. Okay, in that certain part of hi-fi, I do believe that you can to some degree add more signal to the chain and make it better. So I'm not saying that we should just, you know, totally reduce the signal and go back to something like you know, an open baffle design with almost no filtering at all. I'm not saying that, but I think we just have to remember that, you know, the purity of hi-fi does not come through us making solutions that are cheap, that give us a lot of value for the money, and then where we become all dreamy-eyed and thinking that, oh yeah, active speakers is like the next optimal thing. Oh yeah, DSP is the next optimal thing. It has a lot of potential, but it isn't the end game for what is like the ultimate sound. If you really want the ultimate sound, of course you could get a lot of value going into those previous direction I mentioned, like the active speakers and, you know, DSP and stuff like that. You can get to a certain level where it's actually quite good, but overall, trying to do that, trying to take those shortcuts will in the end most likely not get you anywhere near the top sound. So that's what I'm trying to say. And, you know, when I've listened to a lot of gear, what I would call bad gear, I think that a lot of people would call this actually good gear because it highlights certain aspects of the structure. So the mind has more of a, you know, a bird's eye view on the music, kind of creating the illusion of more detail, when in fact that it's actually an inhibitor that is put on the sound, which separates things, you know, so you get this more surface-like detail. So, and I think that when I listen to a lot of products, they just sound what they really are, like products. And I just don't like that in hi-fi, that we're listening to gear, we're listening to products, we're listening to a certain angle of sound instead of like it totally letting go of itself, and you're like enveloped with this fantastically alive flow of music. So to me personally, I feel that Macintosh, MIT, and Wilson speakers generally do this. You know, they make all different models. These brands all make different models, and they all have their own kind of different sounds. So I can't totally generalize, but still I can generalize, because all of these brands here, they have a very controlled way of delivering detail. And, you know, there is a market for those people that like that type of detail. And I think that especially because when you move up towards the higher classes, you might have had something a lot less good than a Macintosh amp or whatever. And then when you get to Macintosh, suddenly there's like, you know, order over all the chaos that you previously had with all the other gear. And you might think that, wow, you know, this is like the real deal, you know. I also used to think that. I also think still to this day that to some degree that is a very impressive sound. And some of the newer stuff even breaks the traditional Macintosh sound. And I just think that, wow, should I maybe own some Macintosh gear again? But then I think, you know, just money-wise, I could get a sound that is just so much more what I would consider natural and uninhibited with completely free of all of these filters that manages sound. So that's just what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that we need to get away from stuff that is compensating and managing and making things look pretty and cool, so we're getting this like product like effect, and more getting to experience the real thing. Yeah, like I said before, here. And I also feel that sometimes I've actually found myself not doing the necessary work, judging a thing by already referencing what I already know, instead of doing the test that seems, sometimes stupid, illogical, and making no sense. Just like the snake oil video that I showed you guys the other day. What was it called? Why does this trick work? Look at that video. That I think a lot of people wouldn't really be able to explain why that works, but somehow it does work. And because I left my own considerations on the table, having tested hundreds of cables, I left it on the table, and I still did this because I thought, okay, this might blow out my streamer, so I might have to get it fixed. But I thought, I'm anyway going to try this someday, because I just need to know, does this make a difference when I try to fuse two different types of cables into one cable? And it actually did work, and I have no idea the logic of why it works, but still, I don't care so much about that. I'm about to dive into that. Yeah, exactly. This is what creates the best situations in life, falling over these crazy tests of things, making a situation better somehow, but without us necessarily knowing why it is. Just do the damn tests. You can look at a lot of people reviewing a lot of gear online and talking about this and that detail and all of that, but in the end, you've never had that piece of equipment at your own place and tested it with all the cables and units that you own in your own room. So you might easily have to discount everything that they say and find out for yourself how you think it sounds like. And I think that's what we need to do more. We have to look at things in what they call a new time unit, meaning that this is something happening for the first time. How is it sounding? How can I change that? Good. I might even have to make a mistake or two, or lose a piece of equipment that fails, or do something that doesn't make sense, and I might have to fail at that for like a month or two. But in the end, you're gonna collect the data that you need to know to why those things are happening, or just know that they're happening in a certain way, and then from that experience you can become a lot smarter and overcome a lot of problems. So yeah, difficult, very philosophical, and I think that my channel is a pretty philosophical channel, where it's less about what you can see on the video and the paper and the measuring and the stats, and me trying to use manipulative tricks of showing you my point by only showing you the condensed information of what I want you to see. It takes a lot to deal with something at a root level, and that is why I really have created this channel. I wanted to give people the tools to create good sound from the root, and then let it grow up so it becomes just a hell of a lot better. And an engineer could also say that what I'm saying about cables is hogwash, which means nonsense, and that you could just create this and that filter in an app to do the exact same thing. And yeah, in a way they're right, but that would also most likely mean that you would have to create a certain type of predictable flow in the musical structure, which would create some sort of a limitation, usually being linear, flat, and predictable. And it would be a thing that suppresses the sound. So again, me not being an engineer makes me more right, because it actually takes a huge amount of mental ability to jump out of your own mind and your own way of thinking and go against what created the success in your life. That that, okay, I did this and this before in my life, it created this form of success, I have to look in that direction. And that what I'm saying to you is, no, you have to look primarily in that direction, because that is the thing guiding you, but you also have to mentally get yourself out of that mindset and try things that are new. Try things that seem stupid and illogical. Try things that you have an explanation for why they are or are not working, but still do the tests. You have to do the tests. Because once you do the tests, things become a lot more apparent, and suddenly you grow to appreciate other types, other parts of the sound aspects that you wouldn't have been able to before. So, and again, this guy that then criticized me, he would solve a problem, but he would solve it on the surface, creating an even bigger problem, meaning that you would simply get a sound that would stop reacting. So yeah, you can fix a lot of problems in hi-fi, but those problems are usually fixed at the surface, meaning that it somehow inhibits or biases the sound in a way so that ultimately you're not getting anything that's close to the full potential. So yeah, that's just what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry about it, guys. I can be a bit difficult to work with. So yeah, let me tell you guys a secret. I have 3 hi-fi friends that are the best in the world, and they've only reached that level because their ego never got to them, and they were never too proud to test things that seem illogical. They had a curiosity that steered them to success, and they looked at stuff they wanted and basically used their willpower to get to the finish line in some sort of fashion. They all have 3 different religions of sound, but they all did it, and I'm just saying that's how you get to be successful in hi-fi and other aspects in life, where you're willing to not just do what's popular, what seems logical, and you being able to connect the dots, but you're willing to do all the hard work of stuff that doesn't always make a lot of sense. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think that a lot of engineers have just had too much success throughout the years in a certain engineering religious direction, and because they've earned this alarm again, sorry. It seems like I can't make a video without an alarm going off. It just seems like their success has gotten to them, so they've almost corrupted their mind because of this. So I think a lot of engineers are blind, because a lot of people send me messages of all kinds of things that they find an explanation for, and something that they've invented, or they are right because of this and that and that. But when it comes down to it, it actually turns out that a lot of these people have only heard a certain type of sound going up to, like, let's just say 20 out of 100, So they think that they've figured it all out because, they've saved money, they've had success, they have a pretty impressive status. And in a way that they are right. In a way they are right, but they are right within a certain reality on a lower level. And what I'm just trying to say with everything on my channel is that you have to strive to go towards a higher level. And even though you can solve problems that for you in that moment seems a lot better, I think that people should not be completely, content or satisfied with that solution, that they should try to aim higher. And that is kind of like one of the traps of success in life, that you filter all of the data through your previous success. It's how you make sense of life. It's how you can proceed without losing your mind. If we didn't have that's a big part of our identity. If we didn't have that, we would be very confused. So I think that in a way we need this. We need success. We need things confirming that we are on the right path. But we also need a proper developed mindset that makes us jump out of our own solid way of thinking, so we can start to look at something from a completely different view that may be very foreign and very, very, very uncomfortable. So I think that we have to kind of get out of this mindset where if something doesn't add up, doesn't make sense, that you won't even give it the benefit of the doubt to carry out a proper test. Testing is everything in this world. And I have to say that, a guy being like me in the IT industry, I see a lot of people going in and out of the IT industry. And I have to say that the people that make it, I'm just drawing a parallel to the IT industry from the audio. I hope you guys don't matter. I have to say that the one thing that makes people so that makes people successful in this IT industry is that they're able to put themselves in an environment that gives them a lot of validation, gives them a lot of physical testing that they can do, combining that with theory. And that's a validation process that tells people, I'm on the right path, I'm getting this certification, I'm going to this level, this now makes sense, I can connect all the dots. But those people that don't make it in the IT industry, those people that don't become doctors, that don't become audio engineers, those are people that have probably been very unfortunate with not being able to put themselves in a physical environment where they can apply everything that they know, so they can keep on building on that information. And that's the thing. There's so much stuff going on in the HIFI world. You cannot make sense of it on a theoretical level. You have to make all the tests. You have to do everything in order for it to make sense. And then you can filter out afterwards what's right and wrong. But I feel that, that's like the true success to how you're going to get your good sound or get anything in life. So I hope that helps you guys. Remember to like and subscribe if that's possible. Have a nice day.